Someone says, can you please talk about the UK with regards to the current economic and political situation in the world? Could you please say something about the waters of the UK? Of course, as is becoming more and more apparent, the UK has alignment with a particular religion that in history it may seem that it was pitted against. And if we look at the Crusades, it would seem that you had a scenario there where it was at least sold to everyone as an invasion and a saga that was fomented by Christianity against Islam. These days, it may look as though there is a deeper dynamic that was underpinning even that event, and that it may be a very different way round. Who knows? What's going on politically and economically in the UK is that as part of the royal networks, all of the societies who are joined in with that conglomeration of forces is finding that there are other forces in the world who are going in a different direction, and they're having to jockey for power and opportunity a lot more than they've been used to in the past. Meanwhile, as usual, no money is going back into national or local or regional economies, and the people are just being left to go to hell. Meanwhile, at a cultural level, it seems that the indigenous way of life has already been very far eroded by the nation itself, regardless of which cultural or religious perspective you may want to take up as a pathway or a lens to make an analysis through. And then in this latest phase, there seems to be a rise of a very particular cultural way of being that is getting stronger and stronger and seems somewhat unstoppable. But the message is anything can be stopped and changed if the people themselves decide to do something about it. In the UK, that's really quite difficult because everybody is so polite. And everybody is very willing to go along with the status quo and also knock on the head to anybody who is slightly ahead of others. There's almost a cultural reflex to self-limit genius and talent, even though, especially creatively, the nation is extremely creative and talented, and not just in the arts, but also in business and entrepreneurship. There needs to be more self-belief, but of course that stems from source connection and purity. The great news, the wonderful news about the UK is that in the waters of the UK is a history of adaptation, resilience, and a kind of supra-dominance of the indigenous that always finds a way to disable dominant hegemonies, especially abusive ones. The flip side of all of this is that in the UK there is an astounding dynamic for also knocking on the head anything negative that gets too far ahead. Anything that disempowers that gets too far ahead. And actually, underneath there are many facets of the overall conditioning between nature and populations which have not changed at all, which are still very alive and well, which calls a spade and is not politically correct, which is actually quite aggressive and not docile and following the party line at all. These things are starting to revive in the UK, but in a new way. There is a distaste now for the colonial history, which is not going to be popular with anyone of any nation on any planet because there is so much negative shadow attached to it. There is a taste now for a new type of engagement with the very strengths of multicultural society, multi-genius populations, and multi-insight individuals who have been able to learn much different ways of coping with their societies than even we did several centuries ago, when it seemed to be a lot more singular in the way it lived and made choices culturally. There is a model in the UK which stems from the biospiritual intelligence of the waters and the history, which is alive and well in all people living in the UK. There is the potential for great unity and harmonization in the UK if people can shake off their terrible habit of just turning a blind eye, closing the door and thinking that it's not about them and there's nothing they can do.